July 17th. And I talked to Karen about whether she thought I should do Sub Saturday where I played the Gawking Rabble, or if I should do World Cup recap. And we agreed World Cup recap was a better idea. Actually, she said anything's better than playing subs Saturday. I was like, all right. Yeah. So I guess I won't be playing subs on Saturday and Sunday until the beginning of August when I'm back from New Jersey. So one of the days, I think July 25th, I won't be doing commentary for the World Cup because they have Anand instead. And I was also supposed to do August 4th to 6th, but they got Anand instead. So I'm not doing those 4 dates that I thought I was. And I'm doing every other date, and I'm not doing the 21st because there's a rest day. Nobody's playing. Today, tomorrow, and Monday, I'll start at 11 a.m. like I did today. They have Ifan on before me. And then every other day I'll be 8 to whenever it ends. 8 o'clock my time. 5 a.m. Pacific and specific. Man, they're really far away, the microphone. God damn. I'm surprised you could hear me if you could. Man. All right, now you can hear me. Yeah. Soon. Yeah. And so forth. Let me refresh. Let's see. It says I'm streaming. Let's see. COVID, etc. So I won't be doing commentary July 31st to August 3rd because I'm going to be in New Jersey at the State Senior Championship. And then after that, Anand is doing it. So the 30th is my last day. And I'm starting at 11, and I'm probably going to go like an hour or two because I have to get my flight to Philadelphia that day. Yeah. And so on. Go, Ben. It's C.L. Smith. Hooray. So today I'm going to be on Chess TV in about 20 minutes for 2 hours, 6 to 8 Eastern. And we're going to do, we'll do about 2 hours of a recap of some of the games. I have one complete game, and I have about 7 or 8 positions from games I want to talk about. Also, if you go to YouTube, the chess.com YouTube page, you can always watch the full streams, of which I was on the last 3 hours today, but not the first 3 hours. You can skip those first 3 hours. Terrible. Ooh, Perry. We're having a Game 60 tournament here at the Chess Center. There's 36 players. I think that's right. Spencer, my son, is 3-0 in the top section. He's the only 3-0. And Archer's not playing, and Karen's not playing, and so forth. Next weekend, we're having a 2-day tournament. With lots of good prizes. And tomorrow we're having a kids tournament with trophies and medals. Hooray. Go, everybody. Yeah. Mick Naster subscribed. Hooray. It's Sub Saturday, I guess. Yeah, I mean, the Armageddon game, White did win, as we thought, since he was a queen up. And the increment had started. So Cheparinov won. And so forth. 1999. Thanks, BPEX. You know, I watched the, well, I don't know, like 10 minutes on YouTube of the commentary that Danya and I did, and I thought, like, he was great and I was not good. So I said I made Danya look good. So that was my job, was to make my co-commentator look good. He has a harder job too. He has to do all this stuff. I just sit there. C.L. Smith, 200 centidues. Not only does he have the harder job, he's working longer too. But okay, I guess he gets paid more. Yeah, the girls went crazy. Karen was like, "Who's that hot stream?" And then they got rid of that comment. Yeah. All right, hooray! I have a few subs, not too many. Tomorrow has 1 M and 2 R's, not 2 M's and 1 R. And easier, I don't even know how to correct that. I don't even know what you were doing there. And then because, I don't even know what you're trying to say. I don't know, it's easy to do when it's quick too, because you got to just keep going. Sometimes in the classical, there's not a lot to talk about because the players just sit there and they never make any moves. But since there's so many games, it should be fine. There's just a lot of games to look at, so we should be okay. Yeah. I'll be doing the end of the games, so, like, Danya will have looked at all the games with a fine-tooth comb with Ifan and analyzed them and know what's going on. Then I'm going to come in after 3 hours and be like, well, what is this? What's happening? And Danya say, what? Don't you know this is the Najdorf theory and this was the novel? I'll be like, what? I wasn't watching the stream. I was asleep. So on most of the days, I'll start at the beginning. But today, tomorrow, and the next day, I'm starting in the middle. Confusing the audience, which is me. Famine 7 subscribe. No famine. The sun will come out tomorrow. Dun, dun. It's kangaroo. Yeah, whenever I pronounced any name, they were like, that's not how you pronounce whatever name. I would just pronounce them the same as Danya. And they still didn't like it. Man. The terrible. You're only a day away. Am I going to go through Rook and Bishop versus Rook this stream? No. I am not. What's my take on no castling chess? I literally don't care. Squire 377 subscribed. I'm not a person who likes variants. I just like chess. I'll never pronounce names as badly as Yasser. I could try to, but I still can't. Levy said you're not allowed to hit the clock if the pieces are shattered around. Well, actually, that was the old rule, but then they changed the rule since then, and they hired a consulting team to figure out what the new rule should be. And everybody thought that was great. They're going to get like a grandmasters, but they didn't do that. They got the Rolling Stones because they wanted publicity. And then the Rolling Stones rewrote the rules, and it looked like it was going to be pages and pages because, new rules, but they just got it down to one line. And it was Jadubi shattered. And then that was it. It was terrible. Come on, Mick. All right. Yeah. Go, Ifan. Shattered. If it's not obscure, then I'm not making the joke. Mm-hmm. Roller coaster. Of a joke. Let's go. Hype train, level 3. You can do it. So the first game we're going to look at, the game that's on the screen now, this is an example of games you don't see a lot. And so the gawking rabble, which is you think when good players make brilliant sacrifices that they win, and you try to emulate that, and then you give all your pieces away and you resign. And there's two reasons for that. One is when a good player sacrifices, they've done a lot of calculation, and they've concluded it's good for them. You guys just sacrifice because you think it's fun. And the other is when sacrifices work at the top level, those games are well known because they're interesting, and they're not very likely to happen. And the reason is when two strong players are playing each other, if you have a winning sacrifice, usually your opponent won't let you do it. They see it coming like you see it coming. So before it happens, they do something about it. So we have an unusual situation here where black plays brilliantly sacrificing, but it doesn't work. So it wasn't as brilliant as he thought. And actually, there were some mistakes after the sacrifice from both players. Frankly, terrible. Now, this is, they're playing, 10-minute and 25-minute, so let's give them a break. They're not playing slow chess. And so forth. That's right, moves like Jagger. That's correct. Yay, Dominic gave 10 subs. See, the thing is, Dominic moved from Germany to Scotland. If he didn't, that would cost me a lot of subs. If he was still in Germany, he would obviously give 9 subs, but he gives 10 because he's in Scotland. Storm subscribed. Hooray. Tyson won. Go Tyson. And then Dominic gave 10 subs. Hooray. Oh, thank you, Dominic. Dominic's been fighting on Twitter with the gawking rabble. They don't realize that he's German, I guess. Basically, what happens is when people do things that he finds ridiculous, he says, frankly, ridiculous, which is what I would say. And most people are more tactful because they're not German, and they say, like, I don't necessarily agree with your assessment. And that's not what Dominic does. Dominic's like, look, bitch, what you wrote was wrong. And then people get mad because, they don't want to be wrong. Too bad. So Dominic is pretty sure about his, ideas about things. And then he backs it up by winning every poker tournament. I mean, this is in poker, not in chess. In chess, Dominic don't say shit. Right. But in poker. Right. People don't want to be told they're wrong. And, if you're going to give poker lessons or advice and the advice is bad, Dominic's going to call you out. And they're not mad at Dominic because they think Dominic is wrong. They're mad at the way he presents the way that he thinks you're wrong. They want to be coddled, and told like, well, maybe, but probably not. I don't know. And, Dominic's like, come on, ridiculous. So, for example, if Black played Rook C1, okay, then some people like Yasser would say, well, Rook C1 is not the best move because it gives away the rook to either the queen or the rook on D1. It could capture the rook for free. So I probably wouldn't play Rook C1 for those reasons. But the idea of putting the rook on the back rank is an excellent idea. It just doesn't happen to work in this position. That would be like Yasser if he was giving a chess lesson to a beginner, and Dominic would say, what the fuck are you doing? You have brain damage? Right. So that it depends on your, what kind of, what kind of lesson you want. Yeah. So that, Dominic doesn't like when people are stupid and tells them that. And they're like, don't tell me I'm stupid. One time as a birthday present, this isn't the kind of birthday present you guys would like. Wes, about 30 years ago, probably 30 years ago, his birthday present to me was a bridge game with a very good player. So he paid the guy, and the guy played with me, and in a club game. And I told the guy, I knew him already, but I said, if I do something dumb, like tell me it's dumb and tell me why and so forth. Don't just be like, well, that they paid for me to play with them, so I'll be nice. I said, don't be nice. Just tell me what I'm doing wrong. So normally what I do when I was teaching is the weaker you are, the nicer I am. And the stronger you are, the meaner I am. So if I'm looking at chess with, some grandmaster who's better than me, and they make an idiotic move, I'm going to be like, what are you doing? You're 2650 FIDE. Why you play so stupid? But if it's, you guys, I'm like, well, you made a legal move. That's better than you usually do. And I guess if your opponent plays the worst legal move, your move would be good. So yeah, good move. That's right. Ambitious and misunderstood. Man, there's a guy who knows his Futurama. I won't even correct the spelling. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. D. Bart D. No one who speaks German can be bad. Right. Parole granted. One of my favorite scenes in The Simpsons, easily top 5, easy, is when Sideshow Bob wins the mayoral race and they go live to him giving his acceptance speech as the mayor, and he just laughs maniacally. And they have this, the lighting in the background is really funny. That's one of my favorite scenes. And then the newscaster says, wow, he sure is happy. And so forth. Yeah, if I tell you, like, yeah, that was pretty good, then, you know, it wasn't good. Yeah. Etc. Okay, so let's have a look. I mean, 300 centidues, let's look at that. Thanks, debugger. Okay, so in this position, come on. No, I can't get anything to work. All right. Black played knight f3 check. This position's about equal. I think the engine slightly prefers white, but it's basically equal. Knight f3 check, and if knight f3 check works, then he's a genius. And in fact, if it doesn't work, it might work anyway. Sort of like poker. The guy went all in, and maybe white's going to fold. Or maybe black has the best hand. So he's got 2 ways to win. Now in poker, this is a better idea than in chess. Because in chess, they can't fold. So when you go all in chess, you should be right. The equivalent, the analogous situation is that in poker, if your opponent makes a big bet or goes all in, there's a chance that they'll fold, you know, the folding equity. And then that's one of the reasons you would do a play like that if it was correct. In chess, one reason to do something like that, knight f3 check, is maybe it's the best move. And if it's not the best move and it doesn't work, maybe your opponent won't know why. And you'll win anyway. So you got 2 ways to win. The only way to not win is it's not good and your opponent plays perfectly. And so, practically speaking, knight f3 is fine. And what's funny is, even though this was a rapid game, white defended perfectly. Well, except for one thing. Okay, so he took, and then he played g5, which is, that's the point. The knight can't move because queen h2 mate is coming. Also, the knight can't move. I mean, the knight could go to g2, which hangs checkmate in 2 moves, but there's actually no safe square for the knight anyway. And he figured once he wins this knight, you know, he's unleashing the latent potential. He's not even sacrificing anything. So this was amazing because when it was played, I was like, interesting. And the engine's like, terrible. And I was thinking, man, I don't think I would find this in a rapid game. In the slow game, I think I would. But not in a rapid game. I just get crushed. And Cori found the right move. What's funny is you would expect with black playing g takes f4, black is attacking. And you'll notice after gf4, the g file's open, which seems good for black, and white turned it around by playing king h1. This is an amazing move. And the obvious idea is if you take, I have the g file, and after king here, I win your queen. I mean, that's incredible. So if I was a betting man, I would think Mareco didn't see king h1. I know I didn't. Okay, he played the best move, king f8. Now, I had to do a lot of computer analysis in preparation for this stream to understand why the engine move is better than Cori's. Cori made a mistake now. And I'm friends with Cori, so I asked him, thanks for the raid, basing? Is it Basinger? I said, like, why did you make a mistake in this position? And he said he was having trouble thinking, Cori was, because he was trying to think of words that rhymed with Cori. And once he got to like allegory, Montessori, he was like deep in thought. He's like, oh my God, it's my move. So that's a good explanation of why white made a mistake here. Yeah, story. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Let's pronounced Schopenhauer. Wow, cool. That is a good pronunciation of... Okay, now, I will explain, because I did a lot of research to try to understand, and I was furrowing my brow in a vain attempt to understand the situation, but now I'm not. Okay, so Cori had the right idea, but the wrong execution. He played queen b2. This is a mistake. And strangely, queen a1 is the winning move with the same idea as queen b2. Okay, and I'll explain why. I'll explain the difference. If you take the knight, which is the engine's best move, bishop f6, cutting the queen defense of the bishop. So, and the queen is defending the bishop just like it would be a b2, like what he did. And if you play this move, threatening checkmate, I stop the checkmate by taking the bishop. It's not checkmate. And the engine says white's like plus 400, because white's threatening bishop e7 check, winning the queen, and white's a piece up. And once white gets a free move, he's gonna checkmate black and such. Okay. And so in this position, if you take on f3, threatening to take on e2 with discovered check, now we play bishop c4. And the engine says white's winning. And I was like, okay, that's fine. White could be winning. I don't know. And I was like, why isn't white winning if he plays queen b2? White can't just play the same way. And he did play queen b2. And he took on f3, which is a very, very, very bad move. If you take on f4, which is the correct move, and you play bishop f6, which you also could have played after queen a1, which the engine says is winning, now you're not winning anymore, because after takes, bishop c4, taking on e3, if the queen was on a1, as in the previous variation, rook takes d6 is winning. And now actually black's winning. So if you take on d6, I play e2, and if your queen was on a1, which it's not, but if it was, I could play bishop e7 check and take the queen. But unfortunately, I'm queening with mate. So now the best move is actually queen a1. That's the only move that doesn't lose. Which obviously, if that's true, you should have played queen a1. And then now it says queen f4 wins. It changed its mind. It said it was a draw. Now it says it's a win. Okay, the problem is you're threatening the rook. If the rook leaves the bishop, we can take the bishop. And after queen takes queen, we promote with mate. But anyway, the idea is just the queen defends the back row. And there's some positions where if the queen's on a1 and the guy plays queen h3 threatening mate, you can play bishop f1. What you can't do with the queen on b2. The queen on a1 you can. So the engine says queen a1 wins and queen b2 does not. And obviously in a rapid game, that's ridiculous. Who's gonna, what? But you can see the difference. The queen on a1 protects the back rank so that e1 isn't winning, and after queen here, we can go here because the queen's protecting it. But I mean, during a rapid game, you can't. Nobody's thinking about that stuff. Now, that's the reason the French grandmaster Etienne Bacrot became a grandmaster at such a young age, and he's been 2,700 for 25 years, because he really understands the Bacrot. So he would play queen a1 for sure, but he's the only one. Okay, so after queen b2, the engine says after g takes f4, black is okay. But he played e takes f3, which is not a good move. Bad move, bad. Not taking the knight. And again, this position is like too complicated to play in such a fast time control. Bishop c4, that is correct. G takes f4. And now he played e4, which wins. A lot of moves win. But the thing is, even though it looks like black is attacking white, these pawns are blocking the bishops. They can't move. So this bishop does nothing. And now after the move e4, that bishop does nothing as far as attacking the king. However, my rook and my queen and bishop and this bishop and rook g1. So actually white's winning here. White's attack is better than black's. And it's just very hard to understand. It's a very complicated position. And knight f3 in the original position I showed you caused massive complications. And unfortunately for black, white played the complications better than him, and now he's winning. So he played king e7. I mean, the engine says white's winning, but I don't know what I would play. But all right. Then bishop g7 attacks the queen. Black threatens checkmate. Rook g1, obviously. And this gives up the f6 square. Truth hurts. f7, etc. I mean, all these pieces are great, and the bishops are shallow and pedantic. The bishops are just blocked by his own pawns. So it's weird because black sacrificed a piece to attack. He won his piece back, but now white's attacking. Yeah, chess is hard. Yeah. And then there was the wrap it up button. Yeah, I mean, every move wins. It doesn't matter now. King c5 is a funny move. Bishop c3 stopping king b4. a5. And then he resigned. Obviously, the black king is ridiculous. But I like the way black's pawns stop his counterplay. He can't threaten mate on h2. He can't threaten on... I mean, if only these pawns weren't here, then black would be winning. Truth hurts. So that was an amazing defense from Cori. And when I say amazing, I mean finding the move king h1. That's really nice. And then he sort of understood that the queen had to go here so he could play here and here. He just went to the wrong square, and black immediately returned the favor by not taking the knight. By taking here, and that actually doesn't help black. It helps white, because white plays here. Hooray! Go white's bishop. This doesn't help because it's blocked. And black was hoping he would take on e3 and eventually unleash the latent potential of the bishop, and that's why Cori played that. That just kills both bishops. It's not an engine move necessarily, but it's a really strong human move because it gets rid of black's counterplay against white's king. And then white took over the attack. Rook g1, bishop g7, queen f6. Black's king ran all over the board. So they had to stop the game at some point because it was too exciting. Zoidberg couldn't handle it. Yay, 1,600 viewers because I'm on Chess TV. Hi, Chess TV. Yeah, it's Pam. Go Pam. Indigo Girls, what? Let's see, Allegory, Montessori. Yeah, Danya was good. I'm not as good. Yeah. You could play rook d8, then queen a3, followed by mate. All you should do is donate. You shouldn't analyze chess. It's not your strong suit. All right. Back to the future. Okay. Now, I always bet on the younger player, which doesn't necessarily work in this event. The old people, older than me, Krasenkov, what's his name? Pia Kramling, but what's the guy's name? Georgiev. Yeah, Georgiev, Krasenkov, and Kramling are all way older than me, and they all won. So what do I know? Now, Firouzja's always the youngest until now. And now he's playing a younger player who's 15. And Firouzja likes messy positions, and most super GMs do not like messy positions. They like solid advantage, no weaknesses, like Magnus and Giri and so forth. And there are some top players who don't mind a mess, like Mamadjarov and Nepomniachtchi. And Firouzja likes it when it's messy. Fortunately, I think his opponent so dumb. This is embarrassing. Who's the guy who's not messy? The other guy? I know his name, but I can't think of his name. It starts with a C? Who's the other guy? Ronaldo. Yeah, I got it before I read it. Yeah. So even though Firouzja likes it Messi, Sindarov likes it Ronaldo. Now, Black played excellently here because he's trying to advance on the king's side, which he did, and now he played f3, and the engine says if he doesn't play f3, White's better. But this vacates this diagonal and the f4 square, so Black can activate his pieces. And while White is dealing with that, Black can start taking the queenside pawns because White can't defend everywhere. f3 is just a great move. Could have played it earlier too. And so when you're playing somebody younger than you who also likes a lot of action, normally when you're sort of a brash, young, likes complex positions, likes when it's messy, that's a new thing for the super GMs. So when Geary and Carlson and sometimes Wesley and Karyakin and so forth, when they're playing, they like when they're slightly better, the guy has no counterplay, and they strangle them. That's what they like. And so that's why the Karpov-Kasparov matches were so good. That's what Karpov did to people, and Kasparov was sacrificing and calculating, and that was a good style against Karpov because he was good at it. And so Firouzja's style is really good against super GMs because they're not used to seeing somebody play sort of wild and crazy who's good at it, like Shirov and Morozevich used to be, although Shirov is still in the World Cup. But anyway, but Sindarov is wild and crazy. That's just my game. So he literally doesn't care because he's 15. He's like, yeah, we can play wild and crazy. I played wild and crazy when I was 15. I just was really bad. Still play wild and crazy. Okay, knight takes, knight h5, putting it in h. Here comes the knight. Knight g5. He's like, what about my knight? And you always want to play knight e6 in a King's Indian if it's possible. Usually it's not. And the reason it's possible is the queen's not on d8, the pawn's not on h6, and the bishop's not on c8. So the formula is there to play knight e6. Knight f4, defending e6, more importantly, attacking the queen. And the queen would like to stay on this pawn, so Black doesn't take this pawn, but that's not possible. He's got to move his queen away from the pawn, and he does, always retreat. And when we first started looking at the game, which was here, Danya thought Black was a pawn up, then he realized he wasn't, then we realized that Black sacrificed with f3. But I mean, the queen and the knight are really excellent together here. And these pawns are all weak. I'm attacking them, and this bishop is, usually that's the good bishop, and this is the bad bishop, but this bishop does nothing. This bishop needs to be on this diagonal. Yeah, this is no good. Okay, he attacked the queen, which is just desperate, but he can't take this pawn because this is hanging. He doesn't want to allow all these forks. The engine says rook b1's the best move. That's a very hard move to play for a human. Your rook's on the half-open file, and you go here in total defensive mode. A human doesn't want to do that, especially Firouzja. So he plays active, sacking a pawn, and then he's going to have to sack a lot more pawns. Rook c2 looks like he blundered his a-pawn, but as Danya pointed out, knight e2 check is annoying. And if you play a normal move that stops it, like rook e1, then knight d3 is annoying. So rook c2 is actually the engine move. And then he loses another pawn. And then I pointed out 3 passed pawns. What else? Pancake Gremlin subscribed. Good. Good. Let's see. Pam. Go Pam. All right. I'm way behind in the chat. Jesus Hooves 2. Can you explain the except for one thing reference? I probably didn't make it up, but I don't know where I got it from. I don't remember where I got it from. Either I made it up or I have no idea where I stole that from. So I don't know. Go Zlatan. Yep. Go Georgiev. Isn't Alireza super GM? I don't know, maybe. Guess. What happens if G3 stopping knight F4? G3 here before you play knight G5. The engine says here, which threatens the knight, and the knight can't go here anymore. You can't play king here because knight F4 check. The engine says G3 is playable. It says you should play this now. It's not what he wants to play. G3 is probably better than what he did. Then here, and they give some long, crazy line. Check. King here. Check. Never play F3. This check. Jesus Christ. Takes. The knight's trapped. And you can attack it again. And somehow King H3 is equal. What? Why is that equal? Queen H6, threatening Rook F4, Bishop F6, G5. And now black's better. And G3 is a move, but it weakens the king a little bit. And then after queen here, you can't stop knight F4 anyway. Okay. But it would work out a lot better than this. This is no good. Yeah. Now remember, they're playing, rapid and blitz and bullet, so they're not going to play perfectly. All right. And then this is just silly because he's down so many pawns. And Danya was shocked that knight E2 check wasn't played. He couldn't believe it. I didn't say anything about why I wouldn't play knight E2 check, but I was just thinking he would take it and then put his knight on E6 at some point. And then black's winning, but maybe he just didn't want the knight to go to E6. So I don't know if maybe he didn't see knight E2 check. I don't know. But he played here, which is fine. And yeah, and black's just completely winning here. This is resignable, but can't resign because it's a rapid game. And we talked about bishop E7 because I was like, why didn't he play that? And it's because the bishop gets trapped. Like rook here, rook here. So, and we were both impressed that he took on H4. The Soviet school of chess is don't make a move like that. You're completely winning, just win. Don't play a move that's tricky. And it's true. I mean, black could just play B5 and win. So if Karpov was black, he wouldn't do that. If Kasparov was black, when he was good, he would do that. See, when Kasparov was the best player in the world, he would go here and analyze dozens of variations. Now, Kasparov would still play here because he wouldn't see the pawns defending it. So he plays the same move, but for different reasons. Ooh, Pérez. Thanks, Pancake Gremlin. Yeah, I stole it from somewhere. I don't know. Yeah, tiebreak games get faster and faster. That's correct. Yeah, didn't Lenny say... Lenny said something in one of the Simpsons where he said, I would do this, this, and this except for one thing. I don't want to. I think it was Lenny. Yeah. It's WSK. We missed him. Except for one thing. Me and Kasparov are like that, son. So this will be interesting. If Kasparov, and I walked into each other somewhere, would he know it's me? Good question. I think, yeah. I think he would. I think he knows who I am. Yeah. I've analyzed with him before on stream, and we talked about one of the games I played once, and we've had dinner with other people 7, 8 times. So I think he knows who I am. I mean, I was the resident GM for a long time in St. Louis, and, he's good friends with Rex, so, yeah. I think he actually does know who I am. Crazy. Go Kasparov. He's probably suing us right now because of the videos we made about him. Yeah. Kasparov, worst coach ever. Go Farnsley. Come on, Farnsley. Don't you see the backward pawn? No. Did Kasparov train Magnus? They worked together for a while. Yeah. That's correct. Okay, so bishop takes h4. John, you like that move a lot. Now, the only reason you wouldn't play bishop h4 is you think gh is a good move. If white doesn't take the bishop, then you play bishop takes h4. And he did not take the bishop. And rightfully so. So let's take the bishop because that's the only thing we care about. Now, what's funny is we were talking about queen takes h4, and then after king f1, queen g4, and the engine says plus a billion. The engine says black's winning. But there's a more accurate way of playing. Check first. You can't go to the h file because rook takes mate. And then here, threatening mate. And now you know what it's like when God has a gun. Yeah, that's it. The only way to stop mate in 1 is to move your f pawn. So your king has f2. And irrespective of whether you play f3 or f4, queen f3, rook h1 mate. Doesn't matter if you play f3 or f4. So yeah, that's just mate. It's just checkmate. Now queen h4 does win, but this is mate, so that's better. $20. Will Alexenko beat Praggnanandhaa? Will Georgiev beat Korobov? Korobov's a favorite, and Alexyenko Praggnanandhaa is 50-50. Either one could win. I'd probably pick Praggnanandhaa if I had to pick somebody. I don't have to. Georgiev could be Korobov, but probably not. Probably not. Yeah. What's the difference between both lines? This one's checkmate, and this one's not. This one just wins. The difference is, in this position, we can play bishop h6 and stop the mate. In this position, bishop h6 does not stop the mate because the rook already went forward. Black's winning in any case. So he actually played the best move, queen d1. He traded queens so he wouldn't get mated. The problem is he's down 1 billion pawns. Now, there's something I want to explain to you, and after I'm done explaining it to you, in like 5 minutes, it's like I didn't tell you. I've told all of my students this 1 billion times, and there's nothing, there's no retention. Yeah, that's why I stopped teaching. Now, I was in a college class before you were born, and we were talking about different belief systems. So, for example, if you're told something when you're a very small child, and that's, reinforced in you for a very long time, it's hard to change. It's your core belief. And if that doesn't happen, there's stuff you don't know. Then when you're like 25, 30, some lunatic tells you some nonsense, you may or may not believe it. But if you were told that nonsense when you were 3 years old until you were 20, and you believed it for those 17, 18 years, it's hard to, So when I teach chess and I tell a student that everything they do is wrong, they go, okay, then they keep doing it because that's what they do. Me telling them not to do it, they literally don't care. That's what they do. So what happens here, there's several things that lower-rated players don't understand about positions like this. Okay, one of them is white's going to lose. And what I mean is a lot of the gawking rebel on the internet who somehow have made Firouzja a deity, they're like, Firouzja is the world champion, Firouzja this, and Jebediah that, and Ezekiel this. All they talk about is how great Firouzja is because Firouzja plays good blitz and bullet on the internet. That's all they know, right? They're looking at the shadows on the walls, and they're like, Firouzja, 1 minute internet, that's their whole world. They don't know anything else. And so this is the real world. In the real world, when it's not a 1 minute game and your opponent has 3 connected passed pawns and they're a grandmaster, then you lose. So it's 100% black's going to win here. I don't care who white is. Okay, if black is a decent player, black wins. Okay, if I'm black against Carlsen and I don't win this, I don't play chess anymore. I mean, this is ridiculous not to win. You have 3 passed pawns and you're up 3 pawns. So this is a slow game and I'm playing Carlsen. He resigns with white. He wouldn't resign in a 10-minute game or a 5-minute game, but if I had an hour on my clock, he'd resign because this is ridiculous. Now, that's one thing you guys don't understand. You think when somebody is so good, they can win these lost positions or draw them because you don't understand what different kinds of lost positions are. You just do what the engine tells you. This position's +4 for black, and there are positions that are +4 for black where I don't beat Carlsen because it's too complicated and I lose. But this isn't one of them. Okay, and here's the second thing that makes all chess coaches really angry. If you have a chess coach and you want to make them really upset, this will do it every time. Every time, if you want to. If you're like, haha, I'm going to show my chess coach. You're black, your opponent's 200, 300, 400 points higher rated than you, and you agree to a draw. You're like, well, I'm winning, but my opponent's 2100 and I'm 1650, so I can't beat him, so I agreed to a draw. And that nothing makes a coach madder than that. If you want to make your coach mad, do that. When you're totally winning and there's no way you won't win, agree to a draw. And then say, oh, my opponent's higher rated than me. Now, a lot of times when I'm doing commentary or I'm streaming or I'm watching a stream or something, the gawking rabble, which is you say things like, well, this guy's losing, but, that's Geary, and his opponent is, somebody who's not Geary, somebody who's like 26, 30 FIDE. So Geary. And I'm like, Geary's going to resign. Like, what are you talking about? And there was a very famous episode of this, basically everything I'm talking about, when Nguyen Jones in Vaikanze about 3 years ago, I'm guessing it was 3 years, it could have been 10 years, it could have been 2 years, I don't know. He played Magnus in a dragon, and Magnus hung a piece. And I was doing commentary at the time, I think on my own channel. And I was like, well, Magnus hung a piece. And the people in the chat are like, no, Magnus wouldn't hang a piece, it's a sacrifice. And I'm like, Magnus hung a piece. Like, that's not a sacrifice. And then eventually Magnus won down a piece for nothing. It's a dragon, it's complicated. Nguyen Jones made like 4 mistakes. And then when the game ended, the Norwegian commentator who didn't play chess, she said, was that a sacrifice or did you blunder? And he just laughed. Like, I blundered a piece. I didn't see it. It doesn't make any sense to sacrifice the piece that way. It was ridiculous. And the reason people thought he sacrificed a piece is because he's Magnus. So he wouldn't blunder a piece. So he sacrificed it. And then when he won, they were like, see? Sacrificed a piece, then he won. And then me and the other top players who were doing commentary were rolling our eyes because we know he blundered a piece. He just won anyway. And that's something you guys don't understand. You think when somebody is a big reputation and famous that the position doesn't matter. It matters a lot. So this is just him not resigning because, there's both sides have very little time on their clock. But it literally doesn't matter. So the rest of the game is just silly. There's no play for white. He's just down 1 million pawns. He has no pawns. All right, then he resigned. I mean, it was just silly playing on, but, and there's different kinds of winning positions. There's winning positions where it's 100% you're going to win. Then there's winning positions where if you play really accurately, you're going to win. Those might not win. This requires no accuracy. You just make legal moves until the guy resigns. So that was amazing, and here's why it was amazing. Firouzja didn't have a big advantage and then make a one-move blunder. That's a very common way for a higher-rated player to lose to a low-rated player. Higher rated player plays better because he's better. Then he makes a one move blunder because he missed something, and then he can't recover. Okay, and I could beat any grandmaster with that method. The grandmaster plays better than me, and then they miss something, and they make a one move blunder. Now I'm winning, and then I don't mess it up. That's how I would beat a higher rated player. That wasn't what happened. What happened in this game was Firouzja got crushed. That's what happened. If you play the game over, you're like, well, black's a better player than white. And that's an unusual thing because black is much lower rated and he's 15. So you wouldn't expect that he's the superior player. I mean, he's probably not, but when you see a final position like this, you're like, Jesus, So I'm really proud of my students when I had students when they won games like that, where they just rolled over their opponent. And, sometimes when my students beat higher rated players, my student wasn't playing well, then their opponent hung mate and won or hung a queen. Now my student won. But this is just, he's showing dominance. And that's how you want to win. You want to win because you're the better player, not because, Firouzja beats you 9-1 and the one game he lost, he hung a queen. And it was batting practice and he swung and missed once. That's not how you want to win. You want to win because it looks like you're better than him. And then the guy doesn't want to play you anymore. You're lower rated and the guy crushes you. And you're like, well, I don't want to play lower rated players who crush me. Truth hurts. Yeah. Yeah, kids are good. God damn. All right. So next. Now, Benjamin Bach lost this match, but when it ended, he said, I'll be Bach. So it was okay. Okay, bishop c2. In this position, Benjamin Bach made the losing move. His position's not good, but it's not lost. Now, frankly and obviously, white wants to play queen d3, queen h7 mate. There's something you at home can understand. That's the kind of thing you like to do. And Benjamin Bach sees that coming. He saw it before the game. He saw it 20 years ago that, bishop and a queen give a mate like that. So he tried to do something about it now, but he actually did something that was worse than not doing anything. Grandmasters hate to weaken their structure. So in fact, this mate's not going to happen because black can play f5. Black doesn't want to play f5 because that weakens e5, it weakens the protection of the bishop, and it weakens the king's position. There's a pawn not close to his king anymore. So since Benjamin Bach didn't want to play f5, which would stop mate, he did something else. The engine plays queen d7, defending the bishop, letting the rook get out. And then if queen d3, the engine plays f5. Now white's better because, e file's annoying. The knight has e5. This pawn's blocking this bishop. But black's not getting mated, and black's not losing material. So, just black is positionally worse. And Bach, thinking the game was so early, and he doesn't want to be positionally worse because white has an isolated pawn, he just said, well, I'll just stop this a normal way, and then I'll just be slightly better or equal. So he played this, which is basically a blunder. Okay, queen d3. The problem is, white wants to play knight here, or knight here, getting rid of the knight's defensive mate, and there's not much he can do about it. And he made another mistake here, rook e8, that has nothing to do with white trying to get his knight to g4. Rook d1 is a really good move. It shows a lot of foresight. And I'm going to tell you the funniest thing you've ever heard, not just in chess. This is the funniest thing you've heard in your life. It's so funny, you won't believe me, and you'll have to check on your own engine. Hopefully your engine says the same thing my engine does. That way you'll see how funny it is. Okay, in this position, rook d1 is an ingenious move. Okay, that's why Sam Sevian's so good. The only thing wrong with Sam Sevian is he doesn't like green eggs and ham, which is good because I'm a vegan. Now, black is afraid of d5. That's why he played rook d1, to make black afraid of d5. You can't play knight d5 because you get mated. If you want to stop d5, you got to play bishop d5. And he played bishop d5. That's why Sam is a genius. Sam wants to play knight g4, either via e5 or h2. But if he does, then we could take with the bishop. So he plays rook d1 with this idea. The guy plays bishop d5, and now he goes for the knight g4. I mean, he's a genius. Seeing that ahead of time is, it's beyond good. It's a different level of good. Seeing that you want to play knight here, seeing the bishop is here, and forcing the bishop to stop d5. Now, when I told you this is the funniest thing you've ever heard, now I'm going to tell you. When I tell you, your whole world is going to change. You're going to quit chess forever, and you're going to go live in a convent. The engine says, you won't believe me. You have to turn on your engine to believe me. The engine says black should play. Are you sitting down? It's not a joke. You should play knight b8, and after d5, you should play bishop c8. I have spoken. Always retreat. No human would ever do that ever unless they were rated like under 600. That's the engine line. Yeah. Setting up for the next game. Yeah. You're stopping white from playing this knight g4 maneuver. You're keeping the bishop on the c8, h3 diagonal. And now this knight eventually could either go to f8, stopping the mate forever, or the knight could go here and take whatever white, if white plays knight here, knight takes knight. Then this knight can replace it. And I even told Danya during the broadcast, if you were watching, I said, this isn't good here. Okay? This needs to have the bishop here, and the knight has to be here. Then the knight is defending the other knight, and the bishop is defending g4. So we're stopping all kinds of tricks. And even though this looks like sort of an innocuous position, white's completely winning here. White has a very simple plan, and black can't stop it. Now, technically, knight h2 to g4 may be more accurate, but knight e5 is fine. The best move is now bishop e6, which doesn't make any sense. But you got to stop knight g4. Obviously, this is a terrible move. You don't go here and then go here. What? Yeah. But, I mean, rook d1 was ingenious. He scared the guy with d5. He played bishop d5 to stop it. And that was his real plan, was to play knight g4. So if he plays bishop e6, he looks sort of dumb, like bishop, like he doesn't want to do that. Then there's a big advantage for white by just going here. White has advantages all over the board. Okay, the edge just says that white's winning here. Okay, he played bishop f8, always play bishop f8. And then after here, there's no move. He can resign here. Very simple. Yeah. When am I going to be in the World Cup commentary? 5 hours ago. If you go to YouTube now, you can watch the rebroadcast. And I'm there for 3 hours. Yeah. Well, earlier, that was like move 5. So it's funny. Let me tell you a funny story. There was a game played in the 80s between Hubner and Kasparov. And Kasparov was white, and it was some kind of Slav, and Hubner found this really nice maneuver, and he equalized immediately, and he drew. And I was playing in Vaikanze in the B group in like 89 or 90, I don't know, 91. And I had black in the same opening, and I got 2,700 viewers. I got crushed. I was going to say something else, but, I'm on Chess TV. I got crushed. Man, did I get crushed. I mean, if Kasparov couldn't crush his opponent, why'd I get crushed so bad? Now, it turned out Hubner was at the tournament, and he was standing there. There's no round going on. We were just hanging out. And I said, hey, this game you had with Kasparov and the Slav where you drew easily, how did you draw easily? What did you do? Because I got crushed. And he was like, I don't remember. He couldn't remember. He's trying to think what he did. And then I looked up the game later, and it reminded me of this. Hubner had played knight a6 to c7 to d5. And I didn't do that. So I just got rolled over. But when he did that, he drew easily. He blocked the d-pawn. His knight was on d5. There was no attack, etc. Yeah, this is +4 for white. Yeah. And so forth. Nandos ZA subscribe. Now, one thing I want to tell you, a lot of things that happen in life or in your dreams or in film or TV, those things remind me of things that happened in my life. And then I can give you an analogous situation. So in the movie Groundhog Day, at some point in the movie, Bill Murray says, maybe God isn't that smart at all. Maybe God's just been around so long, eventually you'll learn everything, because that's what happened to him. Right? If you learn for 3,000 years, you'll be smarter than somebody who learned for 30 days. Because you just, even if you're not smart, just the same thing happens for 3,000 years. Yeah. And so that explains to some extent why I understand chess better than you do. Not because I'm better than you. I hang pieces all the time. But I've seen thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of Grandmaster games, more than you have. And I've played a lot of Grandmasters, more than you have. And I've been playing chess a lot longer than you have. So that's why I'm good, is all that accumulated knowledge. And when I did things wrong, if I found another game in that kind of position where the guy didn't do badly like I did, then I learned. And the one advantage I have over most chess players is, for reasons I don't know, I can remember what I feel are important chess things from 20, 30, 40 years ago. And a lot of people that I taught chess to, or I just watch, they can't remember what happened 3 minutes ago. They're like, what? You know, they get mated on h7, the next guy they get mated on h7. And they're like, I got mated last game? I mean, obviously, if you're trying to improve your chess, you can't remember anything. How are you going to improve your chess? If you make a bad move and it's explained to you why it's bad and you remember it, then you got better. But if you don't remember it, then you just do it again. It's not your fault. You don't remember it. Now, it could be that you don't remember it well because that's who you are. Could be you don't remember it well because you don't care as much as the person who does. There's a little of both. It could be that you care about how much money you have in the bank, what you're going to get for dinner, how your kids are doing in school, you know, if your wife hates you more than usual. You could care about those things. But if you only care about chess, and that's what's important to you, then you'll play better. You're like, I don't care about other stuff, the chess. And most people aren't like that. Most people care about a lot of stuff. So, and this is one of the reasons I'm not as good as I used to be, because I really cared about chess when I was 10, 20, 30, and now, you know, whatever, I lose, no good. I don't study chess 10 hours a day because I don't care. So, by caring more than your opponent, and usually the younger players care more. Like, it's new to them. Sam Sevian, the kid who beat Firouzja, Murzin, who's also good, Abi. I mean, they're like, that's the first thing they're caring about is chess. And then these other people like Benjamin Bach, they cared about chess, but now they're in college and they're moving to different parts in the world and, you know, might care about something else. Terrible. All right, so he played knight e4, and Danya was like, f3, f3, f3. And I was like, boo, boo. It turns out every move wins, and the move that he played, knight e3, is actually better. Never play f3. Now, f3 does win. There's no doubt about it. If the knight moves away, you get mated. So, but he still never play f3. He played here, threatening the bishop. The bishop goes here, the knight's hanging. I mean, so this wins just as easily. And Danya said something silly during the broadcast. He threatened this, and he's like, yeah, whatever. I'm still taking all your pieces. Danya said it's not over. And I'm like, it's not over. Danya said this is not resignable. This is resignable. When he said it wasn't resignable, I was like, what? I mean, he's just trying to be nice to Benjamin Bach, I guess. If anything's resignable, it's this. Yeah. This isn't interesting at all. This is just the guy's a piece up. I mean, this isn't interesting. He's up a piece. And then he resigned. So that was weird that he said it wasn't resignable. If Danya had white in that position against Carlsen 10 times and didn't go 10-0, he'd be really mad. I mean, piece up. Terrible. The skip ad button. There is a skip ad button. You click sub to this channel. That's the skip ad button. Yeah. Right. And the thing is, when I was a young, weaker player, when I was between 5 and 10 years old, and I'd lose all my games to anybody, I thought resigning was a good thing because when I read chess books, people resigned. So I thought, yeah, resign. I didn't understand that they resigned because their opponent had, acumen and would win. I thought, I'm down a piece, I resign. But, if I'm 900, my opponent's 1100, no. You can never resign. Your opponent can't do anything. Yeah. What? But yeah, I mean, when I was really young and weak, I thought resigning was cool because I saw every chess book I saw, the games ended in resignation. So I thought, yeah, you resign when you're losing because your opponent's going to win. When your opponent's like under, 1,700, they're not going to win. So you just never resign ever because it's silly. Ridiculous. Pam gifted a sub. Go Pam. That's right. Erythromycin will get rid of the acumen. It's true. Yeah. No kids never resign. Never resigning is good. You have to be really good at chess to know when to resign. And even they don't know. My mom's calling me. I called my mom earlier, but she had the phone off. It went right to voicemail. So, I probably shouldn't talk to her now. Or should I? Ryoko TK subscribed with Prime. My opponent gets mad at me when I resign. Oh no, my opponent's mad at me. No, anything but that. All right. This is really cool. This is, again, these are all 25-minute or 10-minute games. The engine says this is equal. And the engine, what that means is, if the engine's playing both sides, it'll be a draw. It's equal. And as a human and as a commentator, you have to decide for your audience that if the engine says it's equal, which side's playing for a win. And that wasn't easy for me and Danya. We weren't sure who was playing for a win. Maybe they both were. White could win because white's up a pawn, and these pawns are all isolated. Black could win because this rook's pinning the bishop. This pawn's really weak, making this a strong pawn. This bishop's better than this bishop, and this king's better than this king. So that's why it's equal. Both sides have advantages. And we weren't sure who was playing for the win. But then at some point, I was like, well, black is. And then Danya was like, yeah. Okay. So he played check, which is okay. King here, that's okay. Check is okay. And if black wanted to draw, he probably could just go here, and they probably would draw. The thing is, white has to be careful. Like, here the engine just wants to repeat. If you're like, oh, I can win a pawn, look at me. If you take this pawn, for example, then you're losing. You lose your bishop. And if you don't take that pawn, and I take this pawn, then I'll take black. So that's why the engine just wants to repeat. So black played king takes a3, probably thinking he was playing for a win. And white made an excellent move here, which Danya had already suggested. This is pinned, so king d1. Okay, and this is a draw with correct play. check, check, king here. And in this position, after king d1, here, Danya thought black should take this. And Danya was right. After rook takes, I actually don't know which side I'd rather be. This is a passed pawn, this is a passed pawn, and these pawns are all hanging. So I guess in a blitz game, I would definitely want to be black. But the engine says everything is a dead draw because it plays like king here, and it gives these pawns away, and white wins these pawns, and it's a draw. So this is a draw. Okay, and black blundered. Good thing for him, he blundered. and he played king a2. Now white's winning, and it's really hard for a human to not play king c2 because it's so obvious looking. That throws away the win. There's another move that's an obvious move, and it just wins immediately. And the only reason not to play it is you don't see it. You know, they both have like less than a minute on their clock. If it's a slow game, in this position, black would take that and hope to draw. And he wouldn't play that because they would both see the winning move here. But since they're both moving in like 3 or 4 seconds, mistakes are made. You could argue, I wouldn't disagree with you. You could argue, why are we having a tournament with all the best players in the world to decide who gets to the candidates tournament, and the games are decided when both players have seconds left and they're just blitzing? That's a reasonable argument. Like, why are we doing this? I don't know. That's what we do. And it's weird to have a tournament that has blitz and Armageddon and rapid as tiebreakers, and then the winner goes to the candidates, which is all slow chess. And the world championship is all slow chess. Why are we deciding who plays slow chess for the world championship by playing blitz and bullet? The answer is fries. Ooh, period. Okay. Right, rook b4, and then that's it. Attacking everything. And that's it. It's winning. Now, he might not win because it's a blitz game. Like, this is the engine line. And the thing is, if you take this, then bishop b2, and the bishop's pinned. So you should take this. And the engine says white's winning. I'm not sure how easy it is. The engine says it's easy, but I don't believe it. White's actually going to play f3 and take with the king and then run over here and take this. Now the bishop is the right color for the rook pawn, so it should just be a win. Okay, he played king c2, which seems like sort of an obvious move. It traps all of these pieces. And once again, rook takes c1 check draws. It's the same deviled egg. But he played a3, which also draws, because we could play rook takes next move. If I was white here, I'd be like, how do I mate black? But you don't, because he can always sack the exchange and take this, and he's not losing. Go Pam. I'm 51 years old. I'll be 52 soon. Capitals 11 subscribed. Hooray. Doesn't that first line result in rook b2 check winning the bishop? Rook takes c1, king takes c1. Oh yeah, I can't do that. I have to play this move. That's the only move. That's correct. And this is a draw, it says. If I take this, I'm good. And rook f8 really isn't a move because, if I queen my a pawn, I win. Yeah, I can't play bishop takes b2 right away. f2 is, my brother pointed out because of that. But he played a3, which is fine. Rook a8, threatening checkmate. And not only does the move draw that he played, but bishop c5 also draws. And black wants to win. Okay. And this is a draw. This is all a draw. And king b1 loses. Never play king b1. So, question is, I don't know the answer, but I think I know the answer. The question is, was white trying to win? Did white say, well, if I go here, he'll go here, and I'll go here, and he'll go here, but I want to win? That's hard for me to believe. Having said that, why didn't he go here? The only other move that's not this is bishop here, but then you can't take that if you're defending. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, this draws and this draws. Everything draws. In fact, moving the king the other way draws. And the reason that draws is actually funny. If you win this pawn with your king and give up all these pawns, you can sack your rook for this pawn and draw. This is the wrong color for black. So king d1 actually draws, and checking and here draw, and he went the wrong way. Now he's losing. Yeah, now this pawn's really strong, and the king's not there to stop it. Yeah, so black's winning now. So, I mean, it's just time trouble, and you can't think straight. You're tired because you've played 10 games of chess already and time trouble. This move is just nonsensical. After this, black's completely winning. Black's queening, all these pawns are hanging. So why you wouldn't keep checking or try to win this pawn is weird. This move is a strange move. Okay, so now he's winning, and he messes up, of course. Yeah. And in this position, e2 is just what happened in the game, and it wins. It's a very easy win. It's weird he didn't play e2. Okay, this is the same as the game, except he didn't have this pawn. And he win. Like, that's it. There's nothing to analyze. Resigns. And he didn't do that, and Danya's like, what? So he made a horrible blunder here. Instead of doing this, he took here. And I was thinking, well, that's okay because he's stopping that, and he'll still do this. And that is what happened. And the engine said, no. White has an amazing drawing move here. Incredible. And he didn't see it, so he lost. But, I mean, it's really nice. Obviously, black didn't see it either when he took. It looks like it doesn't matter what white does, we go here. And he missed this move drawing, which is the only move that draws. And the reason is after here, you could take with check. That's why. That's incredible. And this is a draw. If you play here, I can get behind the pawn, and you can't queen it. That was the point of bishop g3, is he stopped rook here. So if you decide, I don't want him to play rook e5, you could play here or here, for example, and now rook g2. It stops all the pawns. And here comes this pawn, king comes here. This is a draw. The engine says so. Bishop takes h4 doesn't work because of rook here, king here, rook e8, and you can't win. The only way you can win is you have to save this pawn and win the rook for this pawn, and the engine says you can't do it. Another idea for white is to stop this pawn and go behind this pawn. Now, if I was black, I would think I have excellent winning chances here. And I probably do, but the engine says that you don't. It says everything's a draw. So rook g5 draws. After e2, white can resign. e2, e1 resigns. And he played this. Now rook g5 is a draw, but he missed it. He checked. And this is where Danya, I didn't have an engine. Danya said king b3 is the only winning move. And now I know why. I didn't know why when he said it, but now I know why. Because king b3 threatens a2 winning. And it threatens this. There's two threats. These other moves don't necessarily win. So for example, let's play king b4. And I was like, why doesn't that win? Because you can go here. Well, now it says king b3 wins by triangulating. So maybe king b4 does win too. Anyway, after this, it's resigns. It's resigns again. There's nothing you can do. If you play rook here, I play bishop here, and I'm threatening bishop d2, queening my e-pawn. And if you don't want me to play bishop e2, I play bishop d2, and then I checkmate you. Here, here, mate. Really funny way to win. So he checked again, and then they got that same position I just showed you, except white doesn't have a pawn here. If white does have a pawn there, white resigns, and here white resigned. So bishop takes g3 was really dumb. I mean, he allowed rook g5 drawing, and this just wins immediately. There's nothing to analyze. There's no analysis. Not playing this is weird. There's nothing to analyze. Like, king goes here, and you take all the pawns. It's very strange that he didn't do that. Danya was flabbergasted. And I was thinking, well, okay, that probably wins too, but it does give him a drawing move. In fact, if you play the drawing move, since they both had no time, he might have lost anyway, because he probably has to play accurately. And see, this is the problem. It's not that the players are bad. It's that we have slow chess, which often ends in 1-1, and then we're deciding who goes to the next round by playing quicker and quicker and quicker. If you play lots of 10-minute, 25, 5-minute in one day, you're exhausted. You're playing like really hard games against somebody of equivalent strength over and over and over again. And now, by the way, you both have 10 seconds left. And that's how we're deciding who goes to the next round. I mean, so that's a tough way to make a living. And then when you guys are like, why are they blundering? Why aren't they playing like my engine? Because they have seconds left and they're exhausted. That's why. Also, your engine's probably better than them. So there's just like a lot of mistakes because you're just moving quickly. Now, you guys at home, you guys watch a lot of Twitch. So you're seeing 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute, 30 second, 10 second chess. So you're used to every move is a blunder. You're used to that. You watch Hikaru play another Super GM. They play a 3-minute game. They both have 30 seconds left, and the engine doesn't like their moves anymore. So you're like, why is Ben complaining about all these bad moves? It's not true in slow chess. When Hikaru or Hansen or Naroditsky or the other big streamers who were 26, 2700, when they play slow chess, there's not all these blunders. There's just like small mistakes, maybe. And these guys who play really well, who train really hard, now you're just moving as fast as you can, knock it over. I mean, now it just becomes silly. And so that's probably not a good way to decide who's the world champion. I mean, maybe it isn't. All right. I propose nothing. Yeah, and the world championship being decided by rapid and blitz is even sillier. Whenever the match is a tie, FIDE has a big meeting before the world championship and decides what's the stupidest thing we can do. So one thing they did was they said, the guy who's the world champion, he's still the world champion. So even though Gelfand lost to Anand in a playoff, and Caruana lost to Carlsen in a playoff, and Karyakin lost to Carlsen in a playoff, all those matches were tied, it's still better than 70, 80, 90 years ago when they would have said, okay, Carlsen wins. The match was a tie. So at least you're doing something. But, I mean, that's a silly way to decide who the slow world champion is by playing fast. That doesn't make any sense. It used to be that the guy just won if he drew the match, which is also dumb. So, delicious. Right, also dumb is to play for 6 months. That's also dumb. So every system is dumb. Man, harsh. Okay. So next. This is Zherebukh versus Shirov. And this is funny. The reason Zherebukh didn't win or draw this game is he's a professional athlete, so he's always wanting more. Okay, like you know, the guy told Ned Flanders. White has been better forever, and still is. In this position, bishop f8 doesn't make any sense. That loses immediately to bishop here. And king f7 doesn't make any sense because I trade and check and take the b pawn. I have a passed pawn here, and I win. So Shirov played king d7. Okay. Now, to me, it's clear, even if I'm wrong, that white saw he could play knight b6 check, rook takes rook, knight takes a4, And he's a pawn up for nothing. Or he could just, knight b6 check, and the engine says white's plus 1.6. Black has a 0% chance to win, and white has good winning chances. And the reason I think Zherebukh didn't do that is he thought he had more. He was like, wait a minute, I have a better move. Okay, and his move's terrible. And that's because they have very little time on the clock. Played rook g7. Okay, that move's not good. It's still good for white. Still. And he wants to play bishop f6 because that looks good, and the knight's trapped. So the problem is f takes e4 surprised him. He probably thought this would win, but forgot knight f5 check wins the rook. So now he's out of sorts. And if he had expected fe4 and still played rook g7, if he's like, okay, rook g7, he'll play fe4. Now what do? Well, you just make the most obvious move ever, which is king takes e4. And white's better. White's obviously better. The rook's pitting the bishop. My knight on c4 is great. My king's better than yours. And then it would go knight f5, the rook would move, and white's better. And I think f takes e4 just shocked him because he played knight e5 check, which is a terrible move. It's terrible. And maybe he forgot, that after here, you can't take the bishop because of knight f5 check. So now the position's equal. White was very close to winning. White had a big advantage, but he made two mistakes, and now it's equal. He played king e4, that's correct. And this position is equal. It should be a draw. Okay, that's correct. That's correct. And that move is actually bad. King e3 is better, but I would also play king f3. I understand king f3. King's better on e3 because it's protecting everything here, and the knight has another square. And I understand king f3. He's not lost. Yeah. And what happened is things have been going so badly that he just kept, going downhill. He's getting worse and worse. What's amazing is this knight was on h4, and it just took everything. As I point out after the game to Danya, the knight just took everything. The knight on h4. That's incredible. Okay, he took that. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, this still should be a draw. And he took that. That's a really, 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 really bad move. And this pawn doesn't really matter. What matters is, are you going to lose this pawn? If you lose that pawn, you lose. And that's what happened. So he should play knight c4. Knight d3 is also a draw, it says. That defends this pawn forever. It stops rook here. You can't play rook d6 and defend this pawn. So there's nothing to do, really. And if I don't want you to queen this pawn, and you move this, knight here, then I can check and take the a pawn. The e pawn's hanging, and it's just, all the pawns are coming off. It's a draw. The only way for black to save his pawn is to play b5. Check, and this is also a draw. The sacrifice is a draw, and letting him play knight takes discovered check is a draw. All these pawns are hanging. Then this pawn's okay. Okay, so he played rook e6. Okay, fine. Knight b5. And now this is a lot of suffering for white. If white had an hour on the clock, maybe he would draw. Maybe. And in my opinion, I'm not saying you have to agree with me, I think when Zherebukh played takes, knight here, he saw that, and he forgot about Dre. He forgot about knight d4 check. So probably in his own mind, when he took this pawn, he thought after knight takes, attacking the pawn, he would just play knight c4 and draw. Maybe even he'd win, because this pawn's pretty good. But then he was like, oh, knight d4 check. So, yeah, that's bad. And now that he saw knight d4 check, he panicked, and he lost without any problem. So the game really turned around because he was missing Shirov's defenses. He's getting flustered. The right move here is very strange. Right move here is c3, stopping knight d4 check. And black would prefer taking this pawn to this pawn, because if he takes this pawn's passed, but it's stopped. So then after it takes this, we could start running our pawn, and that's a draw. Taking this is better, and then we play f5, and the engine says this is a draw. Okay, but instead of doing that, instead of playing c3, he played king g4 with the same idea of stopping knight d4. The difference is between king g4 and c3. It's funny, c3 hangs the c pawn, but king g4 hangs the c pawn more. Because after c3, you could only take one of the two pawns. And after here, we take and we're threatening this pawn. Then king g4 doesn't make any sense. If we save the pawn, then that means we did the equivalent of here, and instead of queening, playing this silly move that doesn't help, losing a tempo, an important tempo. So king g4 was bad. Now he's got no time on his clock. Okay, so he played f5, and that knight took everything. That knight on h4, it took all of white's pieces and pawns, everything. It's all gone. Okay, f6. And knight d4 is a genius move, which he thought a long time on, as explained by Danya. And the explanation is, if white plays the obvious idea later in the game of f7, rook e8. So for example, if black's like, I'm going to queen, then rook here. And the engine says this is a draw. We're both queening, and white's going to queen with check. Because white's going to take with check and then queen with check. And that's a draw. And Shirov brilliantly, with no time on his clock, played knight d4, because in that same variation, black could play knight e6, which obviously you can't do with the knight here. And he played knight c4. If you play f7, a2, rook e8, knight e6 is the only winning move. And Shirov saw that when he played knight d4. That's amazing. Black's going to queen for sure, and white's not going to queen now. So that's really, really good analysis by Shirov with no time on his clock. And now in this position, Zherebukh realized that knight e6 was coming if he tried to queen, so he played this move attacking the pawn, and he wants to stop the pawn now. I'll stop this pawn, and then my pawn will win your rook. Man, that didn't work out. He didn't stop that pawn at all. Terrible. Yeah, and then I think he resigned here. Yeah. Man, Shirov made that knight do a pretty good job. 250. Thanks, Farty Party. I mean, that was amazing play by Shirov. The calculation was good. Getting the counterplay, defending correctly. I don't blame Zherebukh. They both had very little time on their clock. And with very little time on their clock, Shirov played better. Truth hurts. When they had a lot of time on their clock, Zherebukh played better. But yeah, it's blitz and rapid. So yeah, amazing play by Shirov finding this knight d4 to e6 idea, dissuading white from trying to queen. Yeah. 3,000 viewers. Let's see. Interesting chat. It's a good thing I wasn't reading it. Was rook d4 possible? Yeah, I don't know when you said that because it was an hour ago. Let's see. It looks like only black can play rook d4. Did you mean in this position? I'm not sure what you meant. When did you mean, Mark? When should black play rook d4? I don't know when you asked. Don't ask, don't tell. Yeah, this position's a draw, and rook takes it. I mean, he just played all bad moves. Back instead of b5. Oh, you're saying here. No, you're not saying there. Wait. Instead of b5. Ah! You're saying after here. I think. Before this? This is where I said b5. I can't reply fast enough. Is this it? Or you mean before this? When black played b5. Well, this was the variation where I suggested b5. I don't think black ever played b5 in the actual game. But this is when I suggested it. Anybody? Anyone? Okay, well, it could be here. Yeah. Yeah, because that defends this pawn. Yeah, the engine just says white's fine. He takes this and it's past f pawn. But yeah, I don't know when you meant. Bishop a5 after knight b5. What? Oh, bishop a5 here, somebody's saying. That's funny. You're attacking this and you're attacking this. So you go here. There's a good move. I like that move. Black's up a pawn, and black's threatening knight takes a3, and black's also threatening knight d4 check, winning the c pawn. So white has drawing chances, but the engine likes black a lot. Yeah. Losing connection. Man, harsh. All right, next game. I wanted to show you this whole game, I think. Yeah, but we'll go to the next one. I'll come back. I'll show you the snippets first, then the whole game. Okay, this is Domínguez losing every game. According to the producers of our show or somebody, this kid's a grandmaster and his dad's a grandmaster. So there you go. I don't know if it's true, but could be. Okay, so white sacrificed a pawn to attack black's king. And so Domínguez made the human move. Usually computer moves are better than human moves. Computer move is bishop d4, and white is still better. Thanks, Oculus 11. He played the human move, queen a5. If the guy's checkmating you, he's attacking you, this way and that way and the other way, then trade queens. And black is a pawn up. And that doesn't work for tactical reasons, which are very nice. Trades. And now, instead of the obvious rook takes b4, which is probably what Domínguez expected, and white's better there too, he has this really nice tactic. Check, king a8, and bishop c7. And the reason it's a nice tactic isn't because it forks this, because Domínguez obviously saw that and was planning on going here, which he did do. He should play knight c6 now, always sacrifice the exchange. And white has excellent winning chances in this position. It's an exchange for a pawn, and when white just play. There's nothing forced now, you just play. White's up like 1.2 or something. Sean Don do that. He did Don do that. Okay, but that wasn't his intention when he traded queens. His intention was to go here. And it's funny, the rook is defending the knight, but there's very few squares for the rook to go to. If it goes here or here, there's g4. The knight is protecting these two. The rook is protecting this one. And what Danya thinks Domínguez missed, this is Danya's opinion, I agree. After e4, I showed you how none of that works. You can't go, this doesn't work. Probably Domínguez thought rook b5 was okay and just didn't see a4, which is weird. I mean, a4 attacks the rook and you can't take en passant. But it's still weird when you can take en passant, you just miss moves. And you can't defend. This is attacked and this is attacked. And there's nowhere to go. So I think when Domínguez played queen a5, he probably saw this and thought rook d5 and he was safe. And then after that, he thought rook b5 and I'm safe. And then Domínguez is like, damn it, I'm not safe. So probably Domínguez, in preparing for the game, should have watched the movie Marathon Man, because obviously his opponent hasn't seen it or heard of it. He's a kid. And then Domínguez would have known if it was safe. As it was, he didn't know, and he found out the hard way. Okay, so he has to play rook b6 and lose an exchange instead of losing a rook or a piece. And there's just no, this is not a problem. These are the kind of positions where the gawking rabble are like, well, if Magnus was black and some 25-50 was white, probably the guy would just offer Magnus a draw. And then I choke on my rage. Right? This is just you win and nobody would ever draw you. There's no counterplay and you're just winning. And he played on forever, but, the truth hurts. I mean, he's had no chance at all. He's just down a lot of material. So. And then the guy finished in style for no particular reason. Yeah, rook takes is really nice. So he wants to play e6. You can play e6 here. You can. But he sacks the exchange first, then plays e6, and then plays e7. That's nice. Yeah, winning's nice. The reason he sacked the exchange was there's no knight here to take on e7. That's why he took the knight. Can't go here, so he checked so he could play rook e2, and then he's like, you can't play rook e2. Truth hurts. So he resigned. It was a nice finishing touch when it was unnecessary, but okay. It didn't matter. That's right. A lot of dentist jokes. Yeah. I have two funny things about the dentist from obviously Marathon Man. But there's a Simpsons episode where Homer is sort of like tricked to go to the dentist, or maybe it goes anyway. And he's in the waiting room, and they call him in, and the dental hygienist or dentist comes in, and he's like, ow! And she's like, I didn't do anything yet. Like, I'm standing here. And he says, yeah, but the window's open, and the wind is hurting my teeth. Okay, so then she starts going to work on him, and he's screaming and screaming, and the kid in the waiting room is really scared. And his mom says, don't worry, Timmy, that person probably has a really special dental problem, and it's painful, but you don't have that. And then Homer says, oh my God, such pain, and I don't even have a special dental problem. The window's open. The breeze is hurting my teeth. Good line. And so forth. That's another dentist. Yeah. Lisa needs braces. Dental plan. If we lose our dental plan, I can't afford braces for Lisa. All right. Next game. This is Bacrot. And this is very funny. So Bacrot is the only player in the world who wouldn't play queen takes e8 check. Queen takes e8 check gives white a nice advantage, but it's not the best move. And the reason he wouldn't do that is when there's two good moves and one of them involves the back row, he's the world's leading authority. So queen takes e8 is fine, good move, but knight e4 is better. And the reason it's better is weird. It's not the kind of move you would make without calculating because your knight's pinned, so it looks stupid. The reason it's not stupid is it attacks the queen, and the queen has to stay on the knight, which is easier said than done. If you don't want to give up an exchange, and white's already up a pawn, you have to play queen f5. Your queen's attacked, your knight's attacked. The queen f5 is the only move that saves them both. And now the bishop's trapped. It can't retreat. Never play f3. If you play bishop here, then, g4, knight here. Probably they both win. And the reason I wanted to show you this is because in this position, after bishop h3, I just find white's move really cool. It could be that you don't, and you're like, why is that move cool? I find it really cool. I don't know. Now, here white has two winning moves, but white played the best winning move. And in fact, if white doesn't play one of the two winning moves, he's actually losing. Truth hurts. If you take the bishop, which is triple question mark, then the queen goes back, check, And if you don't want to get checkmated, you have to block with your knight, but then you lose your queen. What's funny is after here, you don't take the queen because bishop f7 check, take the knight with check, and then you mate. So knight g3 is forced. And black's winning here. He's taking this. He's taking this. Okay. Yeah, g4. That's why I like this game, because g4 is such a weird move. You're attacking the bishop, and you unattack it, and let the guy take your rook. I just thought that was funny. g4 is an easy move to miss. When a guy can take your bishop, normally you don't look at the pawn moving somewhere else. Like if you sacked your bishop on a square and a pawn could take it, you don't look at the pawn moving somewhere else. That's weird. It's like I don't know. For a computer, it's easy. And in my opinion, Bacrot saw this when he played knight e4. Otherwise, he probably would have taken the rook on e8. Yeah. Oh, the winning move that was not g4 is rook f2. Defense. Not as winning, but winning. Okay, so now the guy played queen g6, giving up his two pieces for a rook. Now in this position, white has a bishop, a knight, and a pawn for a rook. And at the lower levels, often, for reasons that are hard to understand, a bishop and knight don't beat a rook because lower-rated players have a lot of trouble coordinating their pieces. So it's winning, but they get confused. The other guy's rook gets active, and they choke on their own rage. Now, Bacrot's a super GM, so he's like two pieces for a rook, and he's like foaming at the mouth. I mean, he's like, what? And an extra pawn. So he's never been so happy. He's always a little happy. I mean, he has no trouble at all winning. None. I've never seen a guy have less trouble. And he's like, yay, I got two pieces for a rook. Bishop e2, stopping, or bishop c4, stopping rook e2 check later. Knife f5. Yeah, he's never had so much fun with his two pieces. Now here he could take on b5, but he doesn't want takes and the rook gets active. It still wins, but he just, yeah, your rook can't get active. Yeah, no activity for the rook. See, he doesn't take this pawn ever because the rook gets active. He's just mean. Like, no, your rook can't do anything. He's so mean. Yeah. And he resigned here because the d pawn's going to queen. I mean, okay, white has 7 passed pawns. But, yeah, I mean, I didn't show you this because, I didn't think about showing it to you, but it's important. In this position, white's up a pawn, and black has no compensation according to the engine. You could argue black has active pieces, white has doubled pawns, that's compensation. And the engine knows after rook e8, knight e4, white's winning. So the engine just plays some passive move so these pieces don't get trapped, like bishop here. And if you're a human and you sack a pawn and you're trying to get compensation, if you play bishop d7, you're just resigning yourself to, well, I'm down a pawn and I got to be careful. And when you play rook e8, you think you're like being active and threatening. And it turns out after this, black just loses everything. Queen f5's forced, and the pieces are just trapped. And the knight's defended by the queen, but it can't be defended by the queen. It's just all tactics. Knight e4 pins the knight, which looks scary, but this knight is defended by the queen, and it can't be defended by the queen. So it's funny, is rook e8's a really bad move. The most active, aggressive, forcing move is terrible because it doesn't work. It's, like at rook e8, I'll play some aggressive move. Then you just lose right away. And that's the difference between, an IM and super GM is, I mean, technically Bacrot was winning this game really early. When he was a pawn up, it was already like there was no compensation. pretty early in the game, right?
Yeah.
How'd Spencer do?
He's still playing.
Really? Damn, getting scared. All right, Karen didn't stay long. All right. This will be the last part of the game, and then I'm going to show you the whole game I want to show you. Okay, as I was telling Danya, Kiril Georgiev at his peak, well, he was the world junior champion. He was top 20 in the world in rating. And in blitz chess, he was definitely top 5 in the world. And Kiril Georgiev is in his mid-50s now, but he's still good. He's still good at blitz. He's still good at chess. He's just not as good as he used to be, but he's still good. And he's playing Maghsoodloo, who seems like he should be better because, he's up-and-coming junior player, world junior champion also. But it's nice to have experience. Now, the reason I started in this position is the engine says it's equal. And the game went totally insane. It was like Alireza versus Alireza. The game went nuts. And when it got nutty and too complicated, Georgiev calculated a lot better than Maghsoodloo, which is surprising. Okay, so he played knight f5. The engine says this is equal. Threatens the knight. Knight f6. Okay, now Maghsoodloo was crazy like Fox News. If white plays boring, it's an equal position according to the engine. And the move that he did play is also equal, but it's not boring. And I think, young players are attracted by aggressive moves, especially when they're not bad. But also he was probably like, I'm playing this old man, so if I play aggressive moves that are good, he's going to fall apart. And if I trade everything, then he won't fall apart. So white can trade everything. He can trade rooks, and then this will be traded, and trade, and the engine says equal. Instead, he played knight g7, which is okay. And the reason he lost was he got out-tacticked. I mean, the guy played better than him in this crazy position. Because, Georgiev was playing crazy chess before Maghsoodloo was born. Took with check, that's correct. Bishop takes h3 is an amazing move, recommended by Shirov. And actually, the engine doesn't see bishop takes h3 in this position. In fact, it's actually funny. Rook takes e1 is a mistake. It's a mistake because of bishop takes h3, which Maghsoodloo didn't see. You should play bishop takes. And the difference is, if you play here now, which is fine, your bishop on d2 isn't hanging. So this is equal. Takes, 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 takes. And the engine says this is a draw. Oh, wait. No, king takes is a blunder. I'm sorry. I'm blundering again. Bishop takes d8. I'm so dumb. I keep taking with a rook when I shouldn't. And the reason you play bishop takes instead of rook takes is now your bishop is defending the knight. If your rook was here, bishop c3 wins. And your rook's defending a4. So it's funny how you're supposed to take with the bishop in both positions. And the engine says this is equal. Okay. So you play bishop takes so that your bishop's not hanging. But he took with the rook, and he probably didn't see bishop takes h3 because when you sack a piece, you're not expecting your opponent to sack a piece. You're expecting him to take it. Now, if he does take it, which he did not do, the engine says what black's okay, but this is, this perpetual pin, knight, that's scary. Okay, and the only move that leaves equality is basically impossible to find in a rapid or blitz game. You have to stop knight h5. This is the best move. Stopping knight h5, threatening the queen. Amazing. And now if you trade queens, you take with the bishop defending your knight, and then when he takes this bishop, you just move your king, and the engine says this is equal. I'd rather have white because I'm a pawn up, but the engine's like, nah, draw. Okay. So taking this is advantageous to white. Now taking this, we're threatening the queen, and you got to watch our bishop also. And the fact that you haven't taken the knight means that bishop c3 doesn't pin the knight to the king. So in this position, if white plays the same way, black just goes here. It's good that black didn't take the knight, because now he can move his knight. And what black wants to do is take this bishop and then take the knight. And even though the material is equal, the engine prefers black here. And, well, by the way, one of the reasons is that I didn't say, sorry about that. One of the reasons it likes black is threatening bishop f2 also. Two bishops, what else? Okay, so after bishop h3, Maghsoodloo played queen c2. That's the engine move. The engine says queen c2, good move. Because white wants to play bishop here once black takes the knight. Bishop f2, that's the engine move. So black is playing engine moves in a rapid game in this super complicated position, and he's in his mid-50s. He's like, I literally don't care. Okay, bishop a5 is a blunder, losing the game. Maghsoodloo played the move where he's crazy like Fox News. So if white doesn't want to lose, the only move where it's not like +4 for black is here. Saving the knight, defending the knight, attacking the pawn. This move is hard to find because black takes a rook. And for reasons that are hard to explain, after this, it says black is better but not winning. Because even though black's up in exchange, the king's not very safe, the bishop's coming to c3, the h-pawn is hanging, and the engine prefers black but doesn't say he's winning. And if you're a human and the guy plays bishop here, you're not likely to just give your rook away. Now, you can't give your knight away either, but so he played a crazy tactical move which doesn't work. He tried, but he failed miserably. Rook takes, which is correct, and this is why he did this. Now both pieces are hanging, but this knight is trapped. The reason it's trapped is very funny. It's because this rook's on a5. That's an unusual reason why the knight is trapped. And he just saves his bishop. So material's equal, but you're losing your knight on g7. So bishop a5 was terrible. It was a big blunder. Obviously, he saw it takes on a5, takes on f2, but didn't see black just retreating his bishop and the knight's trapped. And Maghsoodloo's too good for that. That's bad tactics. Again, I don't want to blame the players too much. I blame the time control. When you make people who are very high rated play blitz and rapid to see who goes on in the World Cup, that may not be the best method. Because this is a very important tournament, and you're not trying to find a winner, you're just playing two games. So it's going to be 1-1 a lot, then you're making them play faster and faster to make them play badly so somebody wins the match. And it's like they literally don't care about the level of play. The only thing the World Cup organizers and FIDE want is for the match to be decided. Right? They can't have draw. Nobody wants to see that. And then nobody wins the match. So they make sure somebody wins the match because they keep speeding it up. And they keep playing right one game after another. They don't play two rapid games. Then the scheduling, obviously, you can't do that. They're doing the best they can. But the only thing the organizers care about is somebody has to win the match. So we get to the next match. In other sports like basketball, this is easy. The two teams play basketball, somebody wins. And in chess, there's draws. So knockout tournaments, it's hard to knock people out because they play too good. And the way to make them play badly is to make it quicker and quicker and quicker. And even then it's a draw. Then they have the Armageddon game, which becomes silly. Okay, so white's completely dead. Plays on anyway, because, I don't know. It's got a piece for nothing. Frankly, ridiculous. This is funny. In this position, you can't play knight h5 because the queen takes it. So he played here, threatening knight h5. See, the knight's pinned. And Georgiev was like, yeah, I saw that before you were born. You can't take the knight because queen g2 mate. Truth hurts. Okay, and then he resigned because unstoppable made everywhere. But I mean, that's pretty good for a guy in his mid-50s to totally outcalculate like the guy who was the world junior champion like 2 years ago. I mean, and Georgiev was the world junior champion in 1983. But as everybody keeps saying, for some reason, class is permanent. You guys remember about 4 years ago, I'm guessing it was 4 years, when Jim Tarzian, might have been 3 years ago, Jim Tarzian beat Kramnik in Gibraltar or Isle of Man. I confused Gibraltar and Isle of Man. I don't know which tournament's which. We'll just say Gibraltar. I mean, Tarzian beat Kramnik. If you thought Kramnik was old, you wrong. Tarzian's old. Tarzian's way older than Kramnik. Over 20 years older. 25. Yeah. By the way, Tarzian's playing in the U.S. Senior Championship now, and he was losing his first game to Novikov, and then he tricked him and drew. So Tarzian's still good. 400 centimeters. It was Isle of Man. Yeah, I don't know which tournament's which. I remember, thanks for the 400 centimeters. I remember on one of my streams a couple of years ago, I said, like, what's better, Isle of Man or Gibraltar if you're like a tourist? And there was very opinionated in the chat. Like, if I want to go to one of those two tournaments, which one should I go to so I can have more fun at the tournament? Like sightseeing or whatever. And then people were like, oh, and then they gave their... And then it turned out I was confused, so I went to the Isle of Wight because I like the Beatles. Now, the Isle of Man is a misnomer because in that event, they have prizes for the best woman. That doesn't even make any sense. How could it be Isle of Man? Right, seems sexist, yeah. Right. All right, and last but not least, very not least, is this game. This is Nguyen versus Esipenko. Now, Nguyen isn't well named because he lost. So let's flip. Esipenko's another kid who's probably not a kid anymore, but he was a kid. How old's Esipenko? Like 19, 18? My mom calls people in their 50s a kid, and I'm like, he's in his 50s. And she goes, that's a kid to me. What am I going to do? 19? Yeah. Yeah, it was played at the Manfred Mann Island, and everybody had to stop their games because they were blinded by the light, which originally, unfortunately, was a Bruce Springsteen song. Blah. Horrible. We discussed this on a previous stream. The Manfred Mann version of Blinded by the Light is a cover of the Bruce Springsteen version. Bruce Springsteen version, he wrote the song, frankly, terrible. If you listen to both songs, you can't tell they're the same song. Usually when somebody does a cover, it sounds like the original. And there was a really funny instance of that. I was watching, I think it was Lou Reed live in Paris, and he was doing a song, and it was a song I knew, but I didn't recognize it. It was Sweet Jane. And I didn't know, and I'm like, wait, that's, sometimes sometimes you don't recognize, it's crazy. Man, that is just terrible, the Bruce, I mean, I hope you're ashamed if you like that. Right, Cowboy Junk, yeah. Bruce's version isn't bad. Incorrect. Yeah. Terrible. Cowboy Junks, man. Yeah. Okay, so Esipenko, pretty good. All right, so let's have a look. I want to show you the whole game. And there's a reason why I'm showing you the whole game. Okay, it's a Slav, which I play. A6 Slav, I have white in the A6 Slav, but not black. Okay, C5. I've played every move here with white that's theory. I've played C5, I've played A4, I've played E3. I tried them all. I lost with them all. Okay. H3 I'm not familiar with at all. Now, the idea, I assume, I could be wrong, is after e5, if white takes it, we can't play knight g4, trying to get our pawn back, I guess. If you play bishop f4, which is a good idea later, then after knight h5, you just hide. And then if you play bishop h4 with the pawn here, then maybe this is a move. So I assume that's the idea. Okay, queen c7, stopping bishop f4, and hoping to play e5. Okay. g3, he's like, I want to play bishop f4. And he's like, nope, e5, I got it in first, I win. Knight e5 is good. Knight e5 is good. Okay, now you can play bishop f4 or takes. The engine slightly prefers this, but okay. And that's what he did. Okay, knight f7 is correct. All right, now in this position, which is very strange, the engine gives one move I wouldn't think about and one move I would think about. The best move, which I wouldn't consider, is e4. And then it says all zeros. I wouldn't even think of e4. And then bishop g2 is the second best move. But he played this. Now, the reason I'm showing this game from the beginning is the first 7, 8, 9 moves, the engine says it's equal. And then, let's see, I'm on Chess TV, so I can't say what I want to say. Black destroys white like it's a different class. Like it's a 2800 playing a 1300. It goes from equal to black being plus 100 like immediately. And not by blunder, 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 by I'm good and you're not. And Esipenko's good, white's also good, but you can just see as the game progresses, it's a different kind of good. Black is just a much better player. Even though it went to playoffs. Okay, bishop c5, and then black's slightly better. Fine. Now, if you play e6, which looks good, okay, I'm not saying it's not good. After this, the engine says black's winning, which is weird for you guys. Like you're pinning your own knight. Why would you be winning? Truth hurts. I'm threatening the pawn, so this makes the most sense, obviously, and frankly. And the reason you're winning is there's a move here you wouldn't think is possible. And that's why you're winning, is queen takes. Normally you don't hang your own knight, but because you have queen f2 and queen e3, black's obviously winning here, you can't play bishop takes knight. So black's going to play knight g6 next move, and there's not really a good answer for that. The answer is white's position's terrible. That's the answer. Okay, so he didn't play e6. He played bishop g2. That's fine. Knight takes e5, and black is up a pawn. And you might say, well, white has compensation. The knight's pinned. White has a lead in development. That's true. It's true. And he played castles, which is bad. And the onus is usually on the person who sacrificed in positions where you're down material. You can't just be like, well, I'm down material, but I'm just going to play normal, boring chess. This is the reason, this is the main reason sacrificing is a very risky venture. If you don't sacrifice and you're not down material, you can just play normal chess. But if you sacrifice and you're down material, you got to prove it. And white wasn't interested in proving it. White just castled. He's letting black do whatever he wants to alleviate the pressure. The only move that makes any sense to put more pressure on black's position is rook c1. Okay, then black has to think about what to do here. This is pinned. Here comes discovered attacks on the bishop. And the engine says black is better, but not a lot better. White has good compensation for a pawn because there's pressure everywhere. And the rook's better on c1 than a1, obviously. I mean, rook c1 is just a natural move. But castles isn't threatening. It lets black do whatever he wants, and you can't do that when you're down a pawn. You got to prove it. Okay, queen e7, excellent move. Now rook c1, too late. Knight g6. He has to keep... I mean, white's retreating, and white's down a pawn. Okay, bishop there's excellent. You don't want to be on the rook line there. And now they're just playing normal chess, but black's up a pawn for nothing. And these are the kind of things you don't see at the super grandmaster level. Obviously, white is not a super grandmaster. It's a good player. And, you know, you're not down a pawn with white out of the opening. You have no compensation. You can't do that. Okay, he played e4. He's trying to mix it up. d4, c5. God damn. Yeah, I mean, just great play from black. Frankly, great. I mean, he's got 2 extra pawns on the queen side, and he's proving it. Now, an engine would not play that move. That's one of those faux aggressive moves. An engine would play a move, and you would choke on your own rage. If you had black in this position, and you were playing an engine, and the engine played this move, you'd be like, oh my God. Black is still much better, but you would feel bad if your opponent played this move. You'd be like, The best move is bishop b4. When somebody plays a tactic you don't see, then you feel bad. And if you take, then the engine says this is equal, because I'm winning my piece back, and your pawns are ruined. It says black's a little better, black's a pawn up. The engine wants to sack the exchange because c4 is explosive. And then if you take with the knight, and the engine really likes black here. Black has a bishop and a pawn for a rook. Black's got crazy great pawns. Black has the 2 bishops. Black's better here. Bishop b4, though, would have been shocking to black. Bishop b4. He played queen h5, pretending to be aggressive. Okay, bishop b7's good. b3's stopping c4 later. And in this position, black missed the best move, but he played a good move, rook fe8. f5 is actually better. Okay, h4, no good. Rook e5. Yeah, queen h5 didn't really do it. Yeah, I mean, this just looks like black is a good player and white isn't. That's what it looks like. Black's up a pawn. Black has a passed d pawn. Black's pieces are all great. And white's played h4, b3, and a3. And the bishop's on a5. And the engine says black's up 3.6. And this doesn't look like white is blundering pieces. This looks like white's just not good. It's not true. White is a good player. It just looks like he's not good. And they're talking about this on Twitter a lot. And this reminds me of the book Master versus Amateur, the Max Erva book. These are games you learn from. If you see Giri play Magnus, all you learned is they're better than you. And they see a lot more than you. They calculate better than you. You already knew that. And if those games end in draws and they're well played, it's hard to learn a lot from that because you can't play like that. You play bad and they play good. But if you see a game like this where one guy is 100, 200, 300 points better than his opponent, then you see why. White's moves have no, what's the word? Not unity. There's no flow. That's what they like to say, flow. Horrible. God, I wish I hadn't said flow. White's playing random legal moves. If you look at White's moves individually, they don't go together. Queen h5, queen d1, a3, b3, bishop a5. The knight got to d5 by moving 20 times. Black's pieces are all just really well coordinated, right? I mean, everything Black did was like good. Every move he made improved his position. White just made random moves, then decided he didn't like them. Queen h5, queen d1. Move my knight 30 times. Put my bishop on the side of the board. And Black is just, you couldn't be better coordinated. Everything perfect. And up material. Okay. Queen d3. Get rid of the good knight. He's like, I don't want to get rid of the good knight. He's like, get rid of the good knight. The rook is trapped, but that doesn't work. I mean, this is embarrassing for white. It's embarrassing. He's getting outcalculated. He's getting outplayed positionally. And these are things you're not taught when you're a kid, because it's hard to teach this. In this position, black is up 2 pawns. 7-5, right? And you might think the engine would say +2. But the knight's attacked and trapped. The king is exposed. We have a threat. We have a passed pawn. The engine says black is +8. And when your opponent's +8 and they're not up 8 points of material, you're not playing well. If it's equal material and it says +8, man, are you getting outplayed? You don't even know what's going on. You're just getting crushed without losing material. You don't understand chess as well as your opponent. And I mean, this guy's really good. This guy won a match. He drew games in this match. And Esipenko's just better. I mean, Esipenko's moves all go together really well. Controls the center. He sees the tactics better. And his pieces are really well coordinated. They all work together. Takes here. Okay, and then he resigned because this is ridiculous. This and knight f5 and mating the king. Yeah, and it says +9. 9! I mean, that was a really terrible beating that you would expect. Black was a very good player and white was like an A player or a B player. Not that white's a grandmaster who's winning matches in the World Cup. And that's why I showed you the whole game, because if you analyze that game with an engine or with your coach or with a friend, you're like, okay, white got run over that game. What happened? I don't want to get run over. I want to be black. I want to run the guy over. And it's a total mismatch, but it's not really. This game was a total mismatch. And so this is the kind of thing you would see more often if the top 10 players in the world played more doofuses. Like if you see Magnus beat Wesley, for example, or vice versa, they're both playing really good and somebody might win. Usually it's a draw. But if you see Magnus play like a 2100, then you're going to see like this. And you'll be like, man, Magnus should stop playing 2100. It's too easy. And I'm not making fun of Hikaru. I'm not. This is what happens with Hikaru a lot, because Hikaru plays in a lot of chess.com events where he's just way too good. He's way too good. He's way too good. Right? He's way too good. And when Hikaru plays in Arena Kings and Title Tuesday, not only does he win the tournaments, I did commentary 3 days ago on Arena Kings. When they had the matches at the end, he won every game of every match. 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 3-0. Right? It's not like it's close. He runs over everybody because he's really good. And the other people are kind of good. The other people you think are good because, they're pretty good on the internet, but they're not in Hikaru's class. They're not. And so they could beat Hikaru because, it's blitz and bullet. But, I mean, he's just way better than them. He's way better than them. He's way better than them. So he's winning every game. He wins every Title Tuesday, every Arena Kings. And that's what this reminded me of. Like, these guys shouldn't be playing because black is too good. But it really isn't the case. Black is a better player than white, and white didn't play well this game, so it was embarrassing. And this is like what I'm afraid of if I play in like the World Open or the Chicago Open and I'm paired up, like Jeffrey Zhang. If Jeffrey Zhang plays like Jeffrey Zhang and I play like worse than I usually do, it's going to be embarrassing. I'm not going to lose. I'm going to lose in an embarrassing way. If I beat Jeffrey Zhang, probably he lost on time or he hung his rook or something. But if he beats me and I didn't play well, I'll get embarrassed. It'll look like I don't know how to play. And that's what happened this game. And it's rare. You don't see that at the top level where one guy beats the other guy and you're like, why is that guy in the tournament? But if you watch Arena Kings and Title Tuesday and just watch Hikaru's games, half of them are him just running over people. I mean, it's not fair. He's just way too good. And if you saw The Hustler, 1961, when he goes into the scary pool hall by the docks and he plays this other hustler and he beats him real easily, they say, you're a pool shark. And he says, well, so's that guy. And he says, yeah, but you're better, much better, which is true. I mean, Paul Newman's too good to play a pool hall with, random alcoholics. Like, Paul Newman's a top player, top in the world. You can't be playing with, guys who are no good. But he did because he's trying to make a couple bucks. And when you watch sports on television, they try to avoid that. They don't want a football game to be 56-0 because you're going to turn it off. They don't want baseball to be 13-0 in the third inning because you're going to turn it off. So if they had high school teams play pro teams, it's not interesting. So they try to avoid that. They try to have parity. They try to have it so anybody can win. And for the most part, professional sports do a good job. But in chess, sometimes it's one-sided, especially in big Swisses. In round one, it's big guys beating up on little guys. And then later in the tournament, it's more equal. But in chess, you see a lot of that. It's a mismatch, and one guy just gets beat really, really badly. Now, I will admit, when I play on my stream against the gawking rabble, half of the games I'm playing bad, maybe on purpose, maybe not, and it's unclear who's better. I'm probably going to win somehow. You don't know how. The other half, I get like 9 queens and 10 bishops, and I take everything. So I don't do that every game, but I do it a lot because the games are mismatches. If I play 1500 and I want to, it's not interesting. But I can make it interesting, and I do. But that's not, that's not competitive. So it's better when the players are equal strength. And I wouldn't guess that the guy with white could get beat so badly by anybody. Obviously, Magnus would do that, maybe Wesley. Yeah. Right, and boxing, which probably should be illegal anyway, but that's a different discussion. It definitely should be illegal in boxing. It should be, and maybe it is, to have these big mismatches. You can't do that. That's dangerous. If I fought somebody who is a professional fighter, that should be illegal, and it probably is. Like, it wouldn't be sanctioned, the doctor wouldn't allow me to fight, and so forth. But you might say, I hate Ben Feingold, I want to see him getting beaten to death in the ring. So I hope that they fight. Okay, but it's against the law. I can't find somebody who can fight because I'll be killed. It's not competitive. It's just stupid. So they try not, you try to have it where it's competitive. Now, these people who fight in this stupid fighting stuff that you guys like Conor McGregor, the reason those guys don't get killed very often is they're all terrible. So if Conor McGregor is outclassing his opponent or vice versa, those guys are no good. So it doesn't matter. It's just stupid. It's just entertainment, and you guys fall for it. That's why you voted for Trump. You're too dumb to know the difference. But if one of those idiots fought somebody who could fight, and the guy tried to kill him, then you wouldn't like it so much. That's why they're always fighting that guy who refuses to hit them. Who's that guy that never hits anybody but he wins anyway? The guy Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather isn't going to kill anybody because he knows he shouldn't kill anybody. That's why those idiots don't fight Tyson or somebody like Tyson who's younger, because they might be dumb and try to kill the guy. That's not good for business. Floyd Mayweather, he knows, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to get my 100 million. He knows what to do. And then you guys fall for it. You're like, wow, that guy did great. if I was playing a guy rated 1100, like 10 blitz games, I could make all 10 blitz games really close. I could. Or I could get 5 queens in every game. So if I make them all close, you might think it's competitive. Now you wouldn't, because you're smarter than that. But the general public might. They're like, oh, he's an old GM, he's no good anymore. That looks like a nice, smart young kid. That GM was lucky in those games. That was close. And then you guys fall for it. Yeah. Terrible. Yeah, can you imagine if Mike Tyson, when he was good, if he fought these idiots that, have the fake fighting, Conor McGregor and those guys, they'd be dead. Mike Tyson would kill him. He wouldn't care. But Floyd Mayweather's like, wait a minute. Ooh, it's close. I wonder who won. Can I have my $100 million now? Let me find another guy. Yeah. And then you guys fall for it. It's important to fall for it. Floyd is a great fighter. He could kill them if he wanted to, and he doesn't. He intentionally doesn't hurt them. Because then that would be the end of that. They wouldn't have it anymore. They'd be like, oh, our guys can't fight at all, and these guys are actual fighters. Never mind. Instead, they're like, wow, he put up a good fight. That was interesting. Ridiculous. But they have to get the right guy to do that. Floyd is good enough and smart enough to keep the money rolling in. Conor McGregor can't do anything, and you guys all think he's a genius. Like, wow, what a fighter. He loses all of his fights, can't fight, can't do anything, and you guys are like, he's the greatest because he has a lot of tattoos or something. I don't know. Ridiculous. I've never been so mad. Yeah, if Tyson fought McGregor when Tyson was good, McGregor wouldn't get in the ring. And he'd run away. Yeah. But he knows he's safe with Floyd because Floyd will intentionally not hurt him. Yeah. Right, Floyd's a good businessman. Right, yeah, the UFC is fake fighting because the guys can't fight. I mean, that's like having 2 7-year-olds fight. They're fighting, but they can't beat anybody. They can only fight each other. They just take guys who look weird, who can't fight, who are big or muscular, and they have them fight. Then you guys are like, wow. Because it's the way you guys are. If guys can actually fight, then they go into boxing and fight. Terrible. Right, it's not that it's fake, it's that they suck. Right. The fake part is tricking the public into thinking those guys are great. That's the fake part. Right? And we do this in other sports too. Right? A lot of people who are up and coming in chess, who are 8 to 14 years old, they're not the best players in the world. They're good for their age. But they get so much publicity sometimes, the general public might think that Abi is one of the top 10 players in the world. And you guys even think Tani is one of the top players in the U.S. Those guys, for their age, are top. But if Abi plays a round robin with the top 10 players in the world, he gets 0. And if Tani plays in the U.S. Championship, he gets 0. But they're good for who they are, and they're going to get better, and they're going to compete at those levels, but not now. So you guys are easily tricked. Man, I sucked when I was a kid. God damn. Wasn't even talented. But after losing like 2,000 games, you get better. All right, thanks for watching and so forth. I'll be on 11 a.m. tomorrow, just like today, Eastern, with Danya. And Danya and Ifan will be on first, 8 to 11. I'll be on 11 to 2. It's going to be slow chess. So I can diss Carlson and Karyakin and Caruana. Has to start with a cuss sound or I won't diss them. Just those guys. Yay! 200 Senzadues. Imaginary friend 7879. That sounds like all my friends. Yeah. My takes are correct. If you don't like them, too bad. Yeah. Ben thinks Thing is fake because of politics. Oh, no talking in the chat, just donating. Samhain OG is an OG. Hooray. Go Pam. I will tell Karen hi. Yeah. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow at this time for another recap. And I'll see you guys tomorrow 11 a.m. on the chess.com Twitch thing. And you can watch me again, if you want, on YouTube. Boo. You can see me have terrible commentary again. Let's see. Who am I raiding? I raid you. You raid me. Except nobody ever raids me. All right. See you guys tomorrow. Bye.